Hi, I'm author Erin Entrada Kelly, and I am here to share something very important with you, my notebooks. I am a big believer in drafting longhand and really putting pen to paper. I've been writing that way since I was 8 years old. And I wanted to share some of my notebooks with you now. For example, this is my second book, Land of Forgotten Girls. And for the Land of Forgotten Girls, I chose this notebook. Each project that I choose has a different notebook associated with it. And the reason I chose this one is because it's a little smaller than most traditional notebooks, has this kind of rigid cover. And the sisters in the Land of Forgotten Girls, they live what they feel is a very small life where they feel trapped, and they live in very dire circumstances, so they use their imagination as a means of escape. And I wanted a notebook that kind of captured those feelings that they have, of feeling small and very introspective and internal. And so whenever I start a project, sometimes I'll find drawings online, sometimes I'll draw characters myself, and I'll keep many notes, and then I just start writing. So this is the notebook for the Land of Forgotten Girls, which is a little different than the notebook that I used for Hello Universe. For Hello Universe, I had many different points of view. I had 4 different points of view, and I chose a fairly traditional one-subject spiral-bound notebook. These are just 2 of them. There's about 6 for the whole first draft of the book. And you can see I use different colors because I also believe in creativity whenever possible. Lots of scratch outs as I'm writing and change things as I go. I make lots of notes in the margins. That's a drawing, right? I have a lot of information about the characters. So usually the first page of every notebook that I have has the cast of characters who are going to populate the book. So that is Hello Universe. Now, when I wrote LALANI of the Distant Sea, this is LALANI of the Distant Sea, and it is my very, very first fantasy. So I really wanted a notebook that captured that feeling of otherworldliness. So for LALANI of the Distant Sea, I picked up this nice leather-bound journal. And you can smell the leather. It has a nice strong scent to it. And it has parchment paper inside, as you can see. So even the paper felt thick and like it was from another time, which is the feeling that I wanted to evoke in the book as well. There was a lot of fun writing in this notebook because you could really hear the pen scratching on this thick parchment paper. So that's LALANI of the Distant Sea. See? I had to come up with a lot of names for the creatures and flora and fauna, as authors often do when they're world building from the ground up. So this is kind of a sticky note, different ideas I had for names of the creatures in the book. That's LALANI of the Distant Sea. Now I want to share with you the notebook for We Dream of Space. We Dream of Space is set in January 1986, and I was a kid in January 1986. The story is really kind of centered around the Challenger disaster, which I remember very, very well. And I wanted a notebook that reminded me of what it was like, at least for me, in 1986. And I chose this composition notebook because in school we often had to get these standard composition notebook. Usually they had that marbled cover, but this is the one I picked up for here. Now, this I picked up because it has a Pegasus on the cover. And in 1986, when I was a little girl, I was very, very intrigued by Pegasuses. I was very intrigued by horses with wings that could fly. And the reason I was very interested in them is because I loved Clash of the Titans, the 80s movie, fantastic movie. I don't recommend the remake. And you'll notice that there's also stickers, Star Wars stickers, because one of the characters in this book, Fitch, he loves arcade games. His favorite arcade game is Major Havoc, but he's also very interested in Star Wars, which of course was huge in 1986. So I put Star Wars stickers out there. And as you can see, I have like sketches for the characters. The original title for the book was This Bright Star. And the titles of my books very, very often change, as they did there. See? One thing that I do as I'm writing, one reason that I love writing longhand is because when I get stuck on something and I don't want to lose my writing momentum, sometimes I'll just write a little note for myself. Like right here, this says convo, which means I need to insert a conversation in here. And I don't want to get too hung up on it and stop my writing momentum, so I just write convo and then I keep going on to the next thing. That way I can go back and fill it in later and look for those brackets. So if you don't use notebooks, if you don't put pen to paper, I encourage you to at least give it a try, because in my opinion, there's really something special about engaging all the senses when you're writing, and you can feel the ink on the paper, you can smell the ink, you can smell the paper, you can feel the paper as you're turning the pages and hear the pages turning. And for me, that's a really important part of the drafting process, is to evoke all the senses to kind of help me create. So I am Erin Entrada Kelly, and those are my notebooks.